Welcome, everybody. It is the only conference that counts when it comes to college football. It is the greatest conference in college football. Unfortunately, I have to sit across from this jackass who's wearing this back-to-back T-shirt. But congratulations to the Bulldogs for pulling it off yet again, not just winning the SEC, but winning the national championship and proving that the SEC is the greatest conference in the sport. But these guys have a little bit of something coming for you this year. So is it going to be three-peat? Or is it going to be a little get back after that beatdown in the SEC championship? Tyler Hohenschelt, welcome. It is time to break the South end zone off on these people one more time. This time, full season in 2023.
Oh, I stepped outside today. I was, the air up here.
It just feels different, doesn't it?
Has that crisp. It's warm, but it has like the wind just cuts in a way. You're sounds like football.
It's the morning is a little different, It's just it's a different vibe than it used to be. That's right.
We're ready. Right. Listen.
And so I know that the season actually officially started last weekend, but nobody watched those games. I mean, what did Notre Dame Navy in Dublin?
Navy, woohoo.
What were you doing? Probably not watching much college football because it wasn't that entertaining. But this weekend starts to get a little bit more real. You got Florida and Utah. That's a pretty big one. No Anthony Richardson this year to bail Florida out, and so Utah coming for a little revenge. And this one's actually in Provo, so that's going to be a little bit. Or not. Where is it? No, Provo is BYU. Anyway, it's in Utah. Salt Lake City,
in the mountains, the Mormon
somewhere
state.
Up there. Somewhere nobody knows anywhere up there except like two cities. Anyway, you get the point. It's up there in Utah. That's where they're playing, and then you have the big showdown that I'm excited about, obviously, which is LSU and Florida State, a rematch of last year's game where we lost on a blocked extra point because we chickened out and didn't go for two. Thank God we got our senses together and went for two against Alabama in a similar situation later on in the season, the signature win of that season. But Tyler, what are you looking at for this weekend's games? Like, what are you excited apart from that? The LSU Florida State game, number 5 versus number 8 is the marquee matchup of this weekend. But what else just jumps out at you? Is it that big Georgia matchup with what are y'all playing? Tennessee Martin or Chattanooga Martin. State or the old ladies of the blind or something? What are y'all playing?
We got the Alabama treatment for opening weekend this year after going back to back. They said let's just
make it easier. Let's make it even easier. Right.
The woodshed. UT Martin is coming. I think to Athens. I think.
Martin. Okay.
I don't think we would go there.
That practically never happened. Well, first of all, so the way that this works, this is why people always wonder, like, why don't the big schools ever go to the little schools? Like, well, it's simple. It's simple math. That's terrible for the little schools because the little school cannot possibly bring in the type of gate that Georgia can bring in.
No.
And they get to share the gate that Georgia brings in.
Yeah.
So it makes much more sense for them to travel.
And our fans will show
up. Right.
And
share.
If we do a game like this, UT Martin will make much more money being in our house.
Yeah. What would you rather have? 10% of $3.5 million or 80% of $238,000? Like it's the math is pretty simple. So
but I like Florida. It's interesting. Like it's a very like niche stat, but this is Florida's first out of state, out of conference games since like the 90s, since they went up to the Carrier Dome to play Syracuse. Like they play Miami, they play Florida State, they all the time. That's still in state. Those are like your typical out of conference look. But now they're going all the way to Utah, which without Cam Rising, I still think they'll be all right. That is a question mark of a matchup.
Cam Rising and Dalton Kincaid, like let's not forget him. Like he's a guy who's like on the board for potential rookie of the year in the NFL. Dalton Kincaid is like that duo of that big tight end and a quarterback that could run and throw and kind of do it all. I actually lost a pretty significant bet earlier this year or last year on a game where for some reason inexplicably Cam Rising is just wearing like a lollipop before the game. And we're like, wait, what? Why isn't he playing?
Yeah.
Like
No.
undisclosed injury. He's not playing.
Did he
Bam.
tear his ACL like in like last year?
No,
Oh.
because he ended up coming back and playing
Oh,
later.
for some reason,
but-
I thought like he like had gotten severely hurt. Other out of conference game I kind of like, which could be very interesting, is West Virginia and Penn State. That's just
yeah,
good old fashioned, near each other. Both
Mhm.
teams know how to drink. Like those are some
Right.
like when you think of like
It gets to SEC style of like
fan
party
bases.
town fan base.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
so that'll be
Morgantown and
Happy Valley Steakhouse.
Valley are like just it's a different vibe. It definitely reminds you of like Ole Miss, LSU, Georgia, Florida kind of I don't know, drunken teenager campuses. And drunken adults too.
At Penn State too, no less, and that's a night game and Happy Valley too. So,
and that's one where like I think a lot of people have really high expectations for Penn State this year, and West Virginia is one of those schools that like there's enough of like a history where you don't overlook them. That's all I'm saying.
They're kind of like a
regardless of like the talent that, regardless of the talent that you know about that's on that field, like. West Virginia doesn't just recruit like scrubs, like they've got some players. So that'll be an interesting one. That'll be a fun matchup. But let's just go right into it though. There's a lot of buzz around. So I made the prediction a couple of years ago that Nick Saban had already won his last national championship. He hasn't won one since. Been 3 years, 2021 and 22. Well, no, 21 and 22. The last two seasons, he lost in the championship game and failed to make the playoff last year. And with Brian Kelly coming in and Jimbo Fisher doing a little bit more with recruiting and everything, we know all the stories about that. They've lost a lot of guys, but they still have a lot of talent on that roster. You're always going to have to contend with Auburn, and now you got Texas and Oklahoma coming into the conference next year. And then with Brian Kelly and what he's done at LSU, it's not the Alabama's going to win the West and then who's going to win the East conversation. Now it's Georgia's going to win the East, and is it going to be Alabama or LSU in the West? And what do you think? Are you seeing things similarly? I'm trying not to get too excited because I really think this is a year for LSU to really do something amazing. But I'm also you have that same sort of Georgia, like Charlie Brown waiting for Lucy to pull the football kind of PTSD from years past. I have that too. Like, even though we won the national championship in 1907 and 03, I still just wait for something like the 2011 season to happen again, or the 2015 or 16 season to happen again. What are your expectations for Georgia this year and for the other side of the conference?
Well, I'll say this. It kind of builds on itself in the sense of like you talked about, you're the hammer or the nail, and people hate the hammer. So now people don't like me. And I always have to living in Pennsylvania. Now it's every time like I'm a UGA, they say I'm a UGA fan. I have to give you a bunch of reasons as to why that's legitimate.
Right. Why you've been here since you were in the mud, and it was like you didn't just you're not just dick riding, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So that's
a bandwagoner.
Fun. As far as how it's looking, I think that it's we haven't lost a game since the 2021 SEC championship. So it kind of compounds on itself to if we were to lose a game this year, which is entirely possible. We didn't have to go undefeated last year. We just did. That loss could hurt that much more, but you and I have both said a timely loss does way more for a team than continuing to win. And
I'd rather lose the fourth to last game of the season than the last game of the season.
Exactly. And Kirby Smart does a great job, even when they are going undefeated, winning games of you don't get too high. Tennessee being a great example coming into Athens last year of knowing where you need to be and maintain that. Don't get too high, don't get too low. Your shit does stink and you can get beat any given Saturday of the week. So I like the way we're looking. We have Carson Beck, who should be possibly in horny jail for sending weird Snapchats. Is what it is. Under center coming in Athens under Saturday. It wouldn't be Georgia football without our quarterback doing something just belligerently weird. It's fine.
Right. Yeah.
As far as LSU other side of the conference, I think that I don't know. Like Alabama's starting quarterback. I mean, for me, it's like a question. It's Milrow
Mhm.
or have they named a starting quarterback like for the weekend? Like,
I
there's a
don't.
lot of questions
Yeah.
to that team for me.
I think it's one of those. I think that he's the default because he was the guy behind Bryce Young last year. But I think it's also a kind of an up in the air sort of, you know, I don't know how long that leash is going to be, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, a
You know,
stable
like,
coach football team is always going to be a good football team, as you
mhm.
know. But it's like you don't have John Mechie, you don't have Will Anderson, you don't
Look,
have Bryce Young, you don't have Devontae
this is the
Smith.
first time in a long time that Alabama has not had a Heisman Trophy candidate at quarterback
Yeah,
coming going into the season. Now, it's not to say that they're not going to have somebody,
but like a
rise up,
preseason,
but
they have
like
a chance to win.
Jalen Hurts,
Yeah.
there was buzz about him possibly contending for a Heisman.
Mhm.
Tua Tagovailoa, like he was a damn near lock for the Heisman coming, and then like he got hurt and had some other things.
Mhm.
But then you go into Mac Jones era, like he was still maybe not a legit, maybe not like a Caleb Williams where he's like the odds-on favorite, but he was in the conversation. And then Bryce Young has been a Heisman candidate for his whole
Almost
career.
won it. Could have almost won it twice,
Right, could have won
essentially.
it twice. Right, exactly.
Like,
So it's, that's one of the things that's kind of crazy about this is, and then you go back and look at what that Alabama team looked like when Bryce Young was not in the lineup, and they almost let Arkansas beat them,
mhm.
and it's just, and I, when Bryce Young was not 100% healthy, they weren't quite the same. So yeah, it's going to be, that part's gonna be interesting. I'm interested also to see if Texas A&M actually, the talent that they have left that didn't leave,
Yeah, we were talking
these
about the
recruits that didn't
exodus
go.
of
Yeah.
the young talent putting in that,
Mhm.
that they probably spent a lot of money on that freshman class.
Right.
But then you also asked about how I feel about LSU. Jaden Daniels is a dog, and
Mhm.
that linebacker whose name I always
Harold Perkins,
yeah,
yeah.
dog, absolute
Mhm.
unbelievable. Like he should be up for is it the Dick? Is it Dick
The
Butkus? Is
Butkus, yeah,
it,
the
yeah,
linebacker, yeah.
he should be an odds-on favorite, like at least
Mhm.
contender for that award. I could easily see us just being the two of us going back to the LCC championship, and that's how this
Mhm.
podcast like to keep it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that's right, that's right. I'm
But
definitely
I
down for that.
like look at the pieces in the West. Ole Miss is always you always think they can make a push, but they still have oh my god, why is blank on the coach's name?
Lane Kiffin?
Yeah, Kiffin.
Yeah.
Jesus
Yeah.
Christ. That's how much I don't care about Ole
It's
Miss.
okay. Right. Well, it's also like you try to forget Lane Kiffin as much as you can because it's
Yeah,
just
I've been
annoying
doing
to
so
remember
good at
him.
it too.
It's just annoying to remember him, so I get it. I understand.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
obviously Mississippi State, who's going to be recovering from losing Mike Leach and the
Yeah.
whole
Yeah,
situation. But
that was bizarre and very sad,
very sad.
but also like it's, what are you going to do? You can't just sulk around in it. You got to
No.
move on and go get ready for the new season and play football. But the other thing too that like people forget, especially going into this weekend with LSU, is Malik Neighbors is also, you didn't mention him, but he's also a dog. Um, Great receiver, great possession receiver, also has some explosive ability, but he's the guy who fumbled two punts in the Florida State game in the Superdome last year and
Mm,
gave Florida State the ball like inside our 20-yard line. I think inside the 10 on one occasion. So he fumbles. So everybody remembers that Florida State fumbled the ball when they
mhm,
could have just knelt it out. But what they forget is that like they punted the ball to us and Malik Neighbors fumbled it to them on like the 5-yard line. And then
mhm.
that's when they tried to score a touchdown, coughed it up on the goal line. We get the recovery and then we drive down the length of the field, score a touchdown, and then get the PAT blocked and lose anyway. But Malik Neighbors, as you saw him kind of rise and become the go-to guy for Jaden Daniels last year, and then Kayshon Boutte just fell off because there was all the hype after the season he put together in
Yeah,
2021
big time.
before he got hurt, because he had a great year. Then he
That
got
hype's
hurt.
all against the NFL too.
Yeah. And he went, yeah. And he like, what did he go in, like the 7th round or something like that, or maybe
They cut
undrafted?
somebody over him. Like he got to stay on the roster for whatever.
Yeah. Right, but he barely made it onto a roster, and is what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
he went from like a potential first round pick to like a potential not get drafted. And what the hell are you doing? But you got those guys. Then don't forget that offensive line is way better than it was going into last season. The kid from Catholic High, Emory Jones, not the quarterback from
I
Florida,
was
but
gonna say, like,
but the lineman, he plays right tackle. They may actually move him inside to right guard because Zalance Hurd, big time recruit, and he's been doing really well in fall camp. And they're talking about him possibly taking over the right tackle job and moving Emory Jones inside to right guard, which would be great, I think, because that just anytime you have a dominant side of your line that you can just go to in a pinch, like 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, and that's LSU did that so well in the 2007 championship season when they had their big offensive linemen on the left side. They would just go right behind those guys. And was it Herman Johnson and I can't remember, is it Trey Turner? Yeah, I think it was Trey Turner and Herman Johnson who were like, Herman Johnson was like a 14-pound baby when he was born. And he was like 365 pounds or something like that. He was a big kid. And then Trey Turner ended up playing like several years for the Panthers, and he's still in the league, I think. But that's that group. So when you have that, and then you got Will Campbell on the left side protecting Jaden Daniels' backside, you have a really lethal combination there. And I don't know. I'm excited.
Listen, y'all be all right, man. Jaden Daniels.
The only thing that worries me is Mason Smith having to sit out after he's the one who
right end.
No, he's a defensive tackle. So he jumped up in a celebration like the first series last year.
Oh no! Did he Grammatica himself
and tore his ACL? Yeah, tore his ACL. He wasn't even in on the play. He was just celebrating the tackle.
He
to stop him
Grammatica
on 3rd down, and he Grammatica'd himself. Exactly. Yes, and he missed the whole season, and now he comes back and he's serving a 1-game suspension because he and Keishon Butte had signed autographs like 2 years ago before NIL. So it's like they got grandfathered. They got grandfathered into punishment.
Yeah, right. It's like, oh, you're welcome back. Sit your ass down.
Sit down. Yeah. So apparently Brian Kelly knew about this all summer and just didn't tell anybody. And
that they were going to be suspended first game.
That he was going to be suspended for the first game, and then like Keishon Butte served his last year. It just so happened to coincide. They sat him when his son was born, so he just went and went in the delivery room and everything and hung out. Took paternity leave basically, but also a 1-game suspension. Not so lucky for Mason Smith, and he's a beast. He's a beast in the middle of that line, and so it's going to suck to not have him in this big matchup. I wish they could have been like, he's going to sit out the 2nd game against Grambling. So, since we're talking about that, let's pull up the schedule because you and I made a mistake when we first built this channel and this show last year. We saw that big G on that schedule. I saw this very schedule. I saw that thing. There were no names or anything, and it says Baton Rouge, September 9th. We were making plans for Tyler to come to Baton Rouge because we thought that was Georgia. That is Grambling. So I wish Mason Smith were sitting out for that Grambling game. And we are going to get into the schedules that we have for this upcoming season here in a little bit. But just real quick before we do, so how do you feel? No Stetson Bennett, and I wonder how much. It's very often that you see these sorts of things develop, and then you start to ask the question, because you have to, great as the Georgia teams have been, how much of it is Kirby Smart and how much of it was the fact that he had this little scrappy walk-on kid who just found a way.
Yeah. Who just
time after time.
Well,
time after time.
We bring back a couple receivers. The biggest two on the offense being Lad McConkey and Brock Bowers.
Brock Bowers is a monster. Yeah.
Stud. I think that those two guys. I mean, we've had 5. It's not the Jake Fromm effect. No, it kind of is. Jake Fromm sets a Bennett effect where it's like we literally have had 5-star quarterbacks sitting on our bench for the last 3-4 years. Yeah. Brock Vandegrift, Carson Beck. guys of that
Daniels.
nature who are so good.
Didn't
And
JT
also,
wasn't JT a 5-star too?
yep, and he's
Yeah.
playing for Rice against Texas, by the way. Good luck to him. His fourth school, I think. Oh yeah, USC, Georgia, West Virginia, Rice. Yeah, so Rice, the Rice Owls playing Texas. Good luck to JT. Whatever. The other thing is the biggest thing is, people give our 2 national championships massive credit to our defense,
Mm-hmm.
And as well as the O line. I feel
And
like
it's not undeserved. Like that. I mean,
yeah,
you. But y'all put up some numbers too.
that
Like the
entire
offense,
defensive,
the offense was scoring.
that entire starting 11 is now in the NFL, and a lot of them are
Right.
going to be starting. It's replacing a lot of those guys, which we, it's the next man up mentality. Especially, we also did get a lot of O-line guys taken, but luckily one of the things I never had to worry about as a Georgia fan is our offensive line, because in the years past, our offensive line has been the size of most NFL offensive lines. So it's just really I think the biggest question is replacing, Stetson Bennett. So can Carson Beck do it? He looked great in the red and black game, the spring game, nationally televised.
They're all nationally televised now, dude. Come on, get out of here! Like, LSU's had their spring game on ESPN for like 10 years straight.
Well,
like,
we were only relevant since last year, Chad. Don't you remember? So that's but it's replacing guys, and it's just rolling the ball out and letting them play. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think Kirby Smart is a great coach. I don't think I love Mark Richt. Always will love Mark Richt, but I don't think we'd be here right now if Mark Richt was still our coach. I think you'd agree, as being a long time SEC guy.
Yep.
That
there was he had a way of there are those coaches that, like Saban, like as much as I can't stand him, like you have to admit, like look at that Auburn game a couple of years ago where they for whatever reason, it's a mental hold or something that he has on people or something. There's something that Saban has that makes that kid like slide on third down and not or run out of bounds or whatever it was. Like I think that's what it was. He ran out of bounds instead of sliding. And if he stays in bounds, the game's over. Auburn wins, and he doesn't. And instead, Alabama comes back, ties it up. It goes to overtime, and then they win in overtime. And Alabama's in the playoff again. And Alabama's playing for a national championship again. Now y'all beat them, but yeah, having that ability to find a way to win those big close games,
make somebody miss a kick to win it
versus hey, look, I mean, say what you want to say, but like it's well, you had to put them in that position too.
Yeah,
it wasn't just that they missed a kick. It was like a 49-yard field goal. It wasn't like this wasn't a gimme. It wasn't a 25-yarder that he shanked.
It wasn't a chip shot,
No, this is a tough kick. But there has to be, you have to be able to say something for the fact that Kirby Smart, unlike Mark Richt,
we were down 11,
found a way to get it done, and Mark Richt seemed to find a way to get it undone.
Yes, snatched defeat from the jaws of victory.
Yeah, I mean it's a thing. Like, I like Mark Richt too. I think he's a good dude. But
me too.
It's something you can't just ignore, right?
Yeah, it's like I said, we like every Georgia fan loves Mark Richt, but Mark Richt, what Kirby has done in this short amount of time versus what Mark Richt had in 15 years as the head coach, you can't deny that.
Right. Yeah, and you can't just blame it on talent because it's Kirby Smart's talent.
Mark Richt's a great recruiter too.
Yeah, right.
He had Matthew Stafford.
Yeah,
AJ Green and Todd Gurley.
Todd Gurley, yeah.
And and Rick's brought in Nick Chubb and Sony Michel. You know what I mean? Like it's,
Yeah.
But
so let's get into we'll go through our schedule first because
lay it on me.
I'm running the controls here, so I get
lay
to
it
pick.
on me. All
right, so we have Orlando, the Florida State game. That's a Sunday night game. It's Labor Day weekend, so we get to have a Sunday night college football and then a day off on Monday. Well, the people who have a day off on Monday, some of us don't have the day off on Monday, but
I don't.
I digress. And then LSU gets Grambling the following Saturday, which again, I wish that's the game Mason Smith was sitting out. Then they go on the road to Mississippi State, and like you said, that's a tough situation trying to replace Mike Leach and what he meant to that program and to those kids and everything. But I think playing that game in Starkville for LSU, that's a challenge that you can't. You're gonna have to come
Those
to play.
goddamn cowbells aren't
You're
going
gonna
to go
have to,
anywhere.
yeah, you're gonna have to deliver. Then they get Arkansas. KJ Jefferson back again, closing in on a lot of Arkansas records. And if he's healthy, that game in Baton Rouge, that was a game that LSU played after beating Alabama last year in Fayetteville, and almost blew it. I don't know if that was in Little Rock. It was up there in Arkansas. It was a road game for us, but LSU, that game was way closer than it needed to be. Then you got Ole Miss at Oxford.
Oxford.
Always a tough place to play. Always a tough game. And Lane Kiffin has a way of pulling weird rabbits out of the hat, and so you can't take that one for granted. Missouri. If LSU loses to Missouri, I don't care where they're playing on October 7th. I'm going to be very upset.
We almost did it.
Yeah. Well, and you would have been really upset if you had if Georgia had blown that game. Then it's Auburn in Baton Rouge, October 14th.
That's a night game.
I mean, it should. We don't know yet, but we'll find out. But I hope so too.
Then Army.
Yes, yeah, that's October 21st. That's Army, yeah. And then in a couple of weeks after that, Alabama in Tuscaloosa. That is probably going to be the same as it always is, an absolute barn burner. Then you got Florida, November 11th in Baton Rouge, A&M November 25th in Baton Rouge, and sandwiched in there is
Georgia State.
It's Georgia State, yeah. So it's there's a couple of little, gimmies in there, but
so I ask,
yeah.
LSU, we're gonna go through a lot of schedules. The LSU over under win total is 9.5. Could you?
All right, so let's pick them out. So
I want you name the game. So I want to know what you think about how these are going to end up.
So Grambling. So here's the games that should be wins, right? So we'll just go with the ones that should be wins: Grambling, Mississippi State, Arkansas, Missouri, Auburn, Army, Florida, Georgia State, and that's it. That's the ones that I would say I'd be surprised. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's 8 that I expect to win. Then Alabama, Florida State, I put kind of in the same category of Florida State being a notch below that, but games where I expect it to be a really good game. The Ole Miss game and the Texas A&M game are games that I think LSU should win, but I think it's too much to take those for granted. But
at least A&M is coming to Tiger Stadium. You don't have to have to be out of College Station.
But if you win those 8 games that I was talking about, and then even if you split the other 4, Alabama, Florida State, Ole Miss, and Texas A&M, you still end up 10-2. Is that right? That's 6. Yeah, it's 12 games. Yeah, it's 12 games. So, over under 9.5 is the number. What's the line on that?
Minus 114 if you're going over. It's minus 106 for under. I would hammer the over on LSU.
That's crazy to me.
That sounds like free money.
And does that include the bowl game? And
no, I think that is regular season wins specifically.
Oh, it's regular season wins. Okay. All right. So if it's regular season, then but that's still
no postseason, no SEC championship, no bowl game.
Because the other thing that we don't talk about, all right, a lot of teams like last year, Bryce Young goes down, Alabama's done. If he's out for the last 5 games of the season, Alabama's toast. Okay. Jaden Daniels goes down. You guys saw Garrett Nussmeier.
Sure did.
He lit y'all up in the SEC championship game.
We don't do good against backup quarterbacks mid-game, Chad. Leave me alone, okay?
But Garrett Nussmeier is legit. I'm telling you,
listen, we don't Tua, Garrett Nussmeier. It's all the same, okay?
Yeah. But so that's my. I think I would hammer the over on that too. But I don't do that. I'm kind of like you. You go ahead and do that. I'll bet on Georgia. You can bet on LSU, but I'm not betting on
Well,
LSU. And you
it's
should.
a 12-game schedule, and the book has us over under 11.5.
You're supposed to. You have to go undefeated. I'll bet that.
Yeah,
I'll
plus
bet that you'll get.
116.
Okay,
It's not even
so let me tell you why I'm betting that over 11.5. Look
Well,
at
do you
this
want me to break
schedule,
it down?
people. The schedule is trash. The hell, man.
We got
Did y'all play anybody?
we
Oh
got
yeah, you
the,
do, Jeremiah. You gotta come. You gotta
glory,
come. Like,
glory. You gotta
yeah, that's right.
listen, everybody, this is, to me, this is our version of an Alabama or Ohio State schedule. Like,
Yeah,
this is our gift.
I feel you.
Before next year, we have to go on the road to Alabama, to Texas, to Ole Miss, to Clemson.
Right.
So let's leave me alone.
Look,
I didn't make the schedule.
Oh, I know. You didn't make the schedule, but someone did. And here are while LSU is playing Florida State, and I'm not going to say Army's great, but it's Army. Like they bring their wrinkles to this thing. Well, it's not just that. It's like, I don't know what kind of offense are they running now? Are they still running like the wishbone or the veer or something like? Yeah, wing T or something. You know what I mean? Like they bring this like 1840s offense that who knows what to expect from that. But y'all got UT Martin, Ball State, and shout out to you guys and Kentucky both playing Ball State in the first 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah, Ball State might have a hard.
Ball State has a harder schedule than Georgia does. No, they don't. But it's shout out to Ball State for like really like going.
They literally play Kentucky then us in back-to-back weekends.
But look at this trash: UT Martin, Ball State, UAB, and Georgia Tech. Those are your out of conference.
Okay,
games.
well, Georgia Tech is we don't that's they have to.
I know you have to play them. I know it's like the whole rivalry thing, but I'm just saying like that's your out of conference schedule, and like we could make an excuse if that's what we had because we have to play Alabama and Florida every single year, and Auburn and Texas A&M. Like, let's look at the rest of your schedule. South Carolina, okay, Auburn. All right, shouts. You got Auburn in there. All right. Kentucky minus Will Levis. Yes, Auburn is your automatic opponent in the cross divisional stuff. Then you got Vandy, Florida, who I don't know, but with no Anthony Richardson, they weren't even that good with him. I really have my doubts. Missouri, I don't think y'all are gonna cough it up like I did last year. And then you get Ole Miss. The Tennessee matchup is a big one.
We got to go to Tennessee after beating them.
After beating them last year. Although, I don't know. Like, can you fully replace the level of play Hendon Hooker had for the first 7 games last year? I don't think so.
Speaking of Tennessee, you and I have not mentioned it yet. What's his name? Joe Milton is going to be the most overhyped player of the entire century. Like, am I missing something? Like, am I crazy? Like, I know
people are just plugging in. Yeah, people are just plugging in. They're like, oh, this guy, but he's gonna do. It's like the Larry Johnson Priest Holmes replacement factor. It's like no, but the guy has to be better than the guy he's replacing, or at least as good.
Like, he's not better than Hendon Hooker. That's why Hendon Hooker started. Like,
that's why, like, y'all don't remember, but like Tyler and I were talking about how, because we were arguing with Aunt Bailey and some other folks about how bad Jalen Hurts was when he was at Alabama. He was trash. He was terrible when he was at Alabama.
So, like, trash.
Like, bad. Like, almost cost them games, and their defense is the reason they would win those games.
National championship.
Yeah, right. And so that's one where, like, the backup came in, and you can say what you want to say about backup quarterbacks, but when the backup is clearly better, like Tua was, then it's it only makes sense that you struggled against them.
Wait, so pull that schedule back up. Let me at least do it.
I'm going to pull it up. All right, yeah. So go ahead for the fans.
Okay,
and break it down for us.
So listen,
I just had to
Martin,
crap
Ball
on you.
State. I think our backups will be in by the second quarter. So once again,
you got to get ready for that big tough matchup with South Carolina. No, South Carolina is actually pretty good. South Carolina's pretty good.
It's not about how good or not South Carolina is. It's the teams like South Carolina, like Kentucky, who we just, if we don't deliver, it's going to be a problem. Like, South Carolina's coming to Athens. We've, like, in the last 5 years, we've lost to South Carolina. You know what I mean? Like, I will be on the ground in Athens for the Kentucky game. I'm very excited about that. Me and my brother and our
Is
ladies.
Spencer Rattler still at South Carolina, or did he retire yet?
He
Okay.
is. And that's the other thing is we get to.
Isn't he like 80? He's been playing college
He was
football for like
on
12 years.
TV1 with I think wasn't he like in the same
He was at
QB1 as
Oklahoma.
Lester Fields? Am I crazy? Or was he after that?
No, he was at Oklahoma, and then they replaced him with Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
And then Caleb Williams transferred to USC and followed what's his face? Who's the coach from Oklahoma that went over to USC?
Oh, Lincoln Riley.
Lincoln Riley. Yeah, followed Lincoln Riley over to USC. It's look, it's we're getting the cobwebs shaken out, folks.
Like, yeah, we are. Like it's
I literally haven't watched anything about football, but I'm ready. Like I've been reading everything I need to read about LSU and the SEC so far this year. But
yeah, as far as our schedule, like I don't need us to go undefeated. I really don't, chat. Like I don't like.
So you're rooting for like, all right, go ahead and go undefeated, and then take one on the chin
from Tennessee
against like Ole Miss or Tennessee late in the season, and then go win the SEC championship again anyway, and then go to the playoff.
I hate being number one. Like to be fair, that's another thing is that as a Mark Richt coach team, we did horrible when we were the number one team in the country. So Kirby Smart has done a way better job of keeping us even keel with that. But I don't even know. Are we number one going into the season? I don't even know. Are we?
Yes, you should. Okay. You should be. I mean,
okay. Just making sure because we weren't. I don't even think we were last.
Unless Jeremiah and Drew's team, Ohio State, is somehow idiotically ranked number one.
We could go undefeated. I mean, but the fact that like the book literally says go undefeated or not is literally
right. Yeah, it's a binary. It's like Georgia undefeated, yes, no.
Yes, no.
Pick one. Yeah. Pick one. But they put over under 11.5 wins so that they can sucker you into thinking like, oh shit, I thought maybe they were playing 13 games.
Yeah, no, literally it's 12-game season, and we either have to go undefeated or not. UAB low key, like I mean, that is it's the same kind of trap game mentality as Kent State. We got off to a really rough start. Because UAB is like good for their respective conference, but and then honestly, Chad, if we're being honest, we have to go to Jordan Hare and play Auburn.
Yeah.
Depending on how they're feeling. I mean, if Caleb Williams not the head coach, so I'm not as worried. Was it Hugh Freeze? Jesus Christ, Hugh Freeze, right? Quarterback, Jesus, coach at Auburn. We'll see how that goes. We play Kentucky without Will Levis. We go to Vandy, Florida. World's largest outdoor cocktail party. We don't lay an egg against Mizzou. Like I said, honestly, rounding it out with Ole Miss and Tennessee should be very interesting because we lost Ole Miss the last time we played them. That is also when they had AJ Brown and DK Metcalf, and we had like the 5'5" Mark Richt corners that played for us. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we could go undefeated, but I don't need it. That's what I'm saying. Like we could very much do that, but we don't need it. Do you think the media needs us to do that again to keep us in the top 4, or like what is your opinion? Like we talk about playoffs and stuff
to go undefeated.
Yeah, do you think the media needs us to do that again? I don't think so.
I mean, so like if it depends on what that loss is, and like so how good is Tennessee? Who who do you lose to? How good are they? How dominant are you the rest of the time? There's all these other things. We don't know who's going to be impressive and surprise people. Like for instance, last year, literally no one expected LSU to win the SEC West last year. It was Alabama, then Texas A&M, then maybe like Arkansas or Auburn no, that's right. It was Ole Miss. It was Ole Miss. And then like there was a stretch where like after we lost to Florida State and after we lost to Tennessee, where this is in the middle of the season where people were like, is LSU going to finish 5th in the SEC West?
Yeah.
Behind Ole Miss, Arkansas, Texas A&M, and Alabama. And no, we won the SEC West because we went on a run and then beat Alabama.
Get hot at the right time.
Yeah. So so we don't know what that is going to happen. What sort of stuff like that is going to happen? Because remember last year there was a stretch where Ole Miss and Kentucky looked like they could be like 1 or 2 lost teams.
Set the world on fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
With the help of Will Levis. Yeah.
Kentucky fell apart.
Could have done a lot more. You know what I mean?
Right. And then because remember they played against each other and it was like a real tight game. And it was like the winner of that game was going to put themselves in the driver's seat to contend for their divisional crown, and the loser was going to, have to do a whole lot of work and be kind of behind the 8 ball. And as it turned out, what did Ole Miss finish, 3rd or 4th in the West, and Kentucky finished like 4th or 5th.
Yeah, I didn't, because wasn't it you guys and Ole Miss to go for first or something when it came down to it? Was it like a 3-way? Like
no, because
Alabama, Ole Miss for the conference for the West.
I think maybe with like 2 games left, but Ole Miss would have had to beat Alabama, and we would have to lose. Like it would have had to be like a 3-way tie. No, if it had been a 3-way tie, we would have still won. Because here's what was crazy about that. As that whole thing was playing out, LSU had 1 loss in the SEC before the Texas A&M loss.
To Tennessee, when that
we had lost to Tennessee. Well, that's an East Division team, so you're undefeated in your division. So that you win that tiebreaker. Then they had the head-to-head against Alabama and Ole Miss. So like there was no 3-way tie scenario that LSU doesn't win.
Yeah.
So it was going to take LSU like falling apart and Alabama losing to Ole Miss, and then somehow that putting Ole Miss into a 2-way tie with Alabama and us in 3rd. So, but
would you want to take a look at the rest of our schedules that we have?
Yeah, that's what I was going to do. I was going to pull that up.
I have the win over under wins set up. Oh,
okay.
Starting top left, ready. I'm just going to ask you, Chad, what do you think the book has the University of Florida's over under wins at? Like looking.
Okay, at Utah, Tennessee at home, at Kentucky, at South Carolina, Georgia at home, Arkansas at LSU, Georgia, at Missouri, Florida State on the road. Florida State. Well, it's the that's one that they play. They play that one in Orlando.
Georgia is at Jacksonville. Remember?
Oh, Jacksonville. That's right. Yeah. Florida State, Florida is in Jacksonville. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So potential losses: Utah, Florida State, Arkansas, South Carolina, Kentucky. What I would say are almost guaranteed losses: Tennessee, Georgia, LSU. So like 3 pretty sure losses and like 6 like likely losses or very possible losses.
Yeah.
That puts them at like 6 or 7 losses easy. And what is their total schedule? 12 games also?
Should be 12 for
right? So I would think their over-under should be like 5.5.
Dude, that was right on the nose. 5.5. That's what the book has at 5.5 over-under for University of Florida. I mean, I think that, depending on how KJ Jefferson is for Arkansas, that could be a team.
Yeah.
What would you think? Would you take over 5.5 for Florida?
What's the number on it?
Minus 144. So it's like
minus 144 for the over.
Yeah, for 5.5.
Yeah, so it's probably plus money for the under.
Yes, the under is plus 118.
I'm taking a swing at the under and just letting the season play out and seeing what kind of chaos happens.
I like it.
I'm definitely not putting money on that Florida roster to
win
more than 6 games.
Without like a lot.
That schedule's brutal. Like they probably have the toughest schedule in the SEC.
Well, we already went through Georgia, Kentucky. Oh, they also Ball State, Eastern Kentucky, Akron, Vandy.
Right. So they're tough
Georgia.
games. Yeah, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, South Carolina. Mississippi State and Louisville. They should be okay. So I don't know what 7.5 is that what they're over?
That is the number 7.5.
Yeah. I'd take the over on that one.
You think? You got Ball State, Eastern Kentucky, Akron.
That's 3 guaranteed wins. Vandy's a guaranteed. So you're already at 4. You should be able to. So you only got to win. So with 7.5, you only have to win 4 of the remaining games after those first 4.
They could be Mississippi State,
Florida, Missouri, Mississippi State, South Carolina, Louisville. Go 4-1 against those, and you're there. If you happen to pull one off against Georgia, Tennessee, or Alabama, then you're in the driver's seat for 8 wins. So yeah, I'll take the over on that.
And then moving on, I don't care about Missouri. No offense, don't really care.
Okay.
I mean, their over under win total is 6.5. You got South Dakota, Middle Tennessee, K State. Interesting.
That's going to be a tough one.
Little Big
Memphis is a
12
tough one.
resurgence. Little Big 12
So,
resurgence.
yeah, South Dakota, Middle Tennessee, Vandy.
Isn't South Dakota still FCS?
Everything else is tough. Everything else is tough for Missouri. What is it? You said 6.5?
6.5.
I would take the under on that.
I would too.
I would have actually pegged them to be like a 5.5. What is it?
Minus 142 for the under.
Well, then I'm just gonna stay. I would just stay away from it. All right. So South Carolina, they're at North Carolina this weekend. That's gonna be.
I would take the over on whatever that total is gonna be. I would take the over.
Oh yeah. That game's gonna be crazy. That game's gonna be wild.
Like
that's actually a good idea.
Type of shit.
Right. Possibly overtime where it goes into the 80s or something.
Yeah. Right.
All right. So Furman. I'm just trying to see wins that I would guarantee. So Furman. Missouri is a dicey one because I don't know how good South Carolina and Missouri, like it's tough. Like they've played enough against each other now that since Missouri joined the SEC, that there can be some history and bad blood a little bit.
A&M.
So Jacksonville State, South Carolina's got a tough schedule too.
Of course, they end with Clemson.
What is their number at 6.5 or something?
Yep, 6.5.
Yeah. That's tough. That's brutal. I would stay away from that one too. Because I don't see it.
I mean, it's plus money. Plus 144 for 6.5 on South Carolina.
Over?
Yeah.
I'd probably take a swing at that and just bet on Spencer Rattler.
Tennessee. They open against UVA, which I think that's going to be a semi. UVA is.
It could be. Virginia's got some like defensive speed and athleticism that could give Tennessee a little bit of an issue, but I just don't. Every time I see one of these schools that's not from the SEC, I'm just like, I don't know if they have 5-6 guys who can guard all the shit that Tennessee's going to throw at them downfield.
Yeah,
and also be able to like stop the run.
Yeah,
like you got to be able to do both, and that's why the SEC teams are what they are, is because you got people who can lock down the corners, and then you don't have to dedicate a bunch of other resources to the passing game.
Bigger, faster, stronger.
Yeah, you got bigger, faster, stronger people playing on the D line. So you and linebackers. So anyway, okay, Austin P, UTSA, UConn, Vandy, Missouri. Kentucky, South Carolina, A&M.
That's a decent schedule.
Yeah, it's not bad.
They go A&M, Alabama back-to-back weeks.
What are they? Are they at 8.5?
They're 9.5.
9.5. 9. I would. Man.
I'll take the under. Without
I'd take under. I would take under on that. Yeah.
Without Jalen High, without Hendon Hooker, I would take the under.
The fact that I said 8.5 should be the number, and you said no, it's 9.5. I was like, okay, then I'm taking the under.
Yeah, but it's minus 188.
I'm taking nothing then. I'm stayed away.
Vandy. Number one team in the SEC, baby.
Okay. How's that? All right. So
because they already have a win and we haven't.
I got you. Okay. All right. Hawaii, Alabama A&M, UNLV. Who else do they have? That's it for.
They play Florida, Georgia, Ole Miss, Auburn. Oh my God.
Yeah. Florida, Georgia, Ole Miss, Auburn, Kentucky,
South Carolina,
Wake Forest too, South Carolina.
Maybe some tough.
What is their over under? 3.5?
Yes.
4.5?
Yes.
Is it 3.5? 3.5.
They already beat Hawaii.
I would say I'd drop it on 4. I think they could surprise one. They're going to beat Alabama A&M. They're going to beat UNLV. They're gonna have
to beat Alabama and Texas A&M.
No, they're playing against Alabama A&M.
Okay,
they don't play Alabama or A&M, but they do play Alabama A&M.
Oh, I was like, what are you smoking?
I was like, what the? Yeah, so I think they could beat Alabama A&M, UNLV, and then they just got to win one more. They have a whole season to win one more game. Find a game and win it.
They could they caught Florida last year. Who says they can't do it again?
I'm saying, yeah.
So, all right, so let's a single file line.
So now this is where it gets interesting. We're going to get to the West Division, where the deepest division is.
Alabama.
We don't have Vanderbilt and Missouri in the SEC West. I'm just saying it is what it is. Missouri should be in the West though, and Alabama and Auburn should be in the East. And
I think that would balance it out pretty well, honestly. If you just like
I'm just saying geographically, like whenever
Oh, yeah.
Texas and Oklahoma come over, Texas
Yeah.
and Oklahoma should both be in the West, and Alabama and Auburn should move to the East, and Missouri should move to the West, and then it's done.
I mean, let's say our peace now to rest in peace to the divisions, the last run of divisions in the SEC,
right,
East and the West.
Because it's just going to be the 16-team super conference now,
and now
which
you and
I think we're going to go.
We got to
We're going to go to all. It's going to be like 6 16-team super conferences, and that's the way it should be, honestly. And then you just make it to where whoever wins each super conference gets an automatic bid to the playoff, and that's your top 6. And then the at-large bids will go. This is the way I would do it. I would make it a 12-team playoff, so the top 4 get automatic buys in the first round, and the next 8, it's the lowest 2 division winner or conference winners, and then the 6 at-larges, and those 8 teams play like a 4-game play-in to meet the 4 buys. And so the winners of those, and then you move on. I would eventually not be opposed to a 16. I've been wanting a 16-team playoff since the 90s.
Yeah,
I had it all built.
Give us that story.
Yeah, I had it all built, and it was going to be great. Where you just start on like the day after Thanksgiving, you start playing. Like you finish the season earlier, play like a 10-game regular season, and then just start the playoffs the Friday after Thanksgiving, and you just go. So you have Thanksgiving Day football with the NFL. Then you have Friday and Saturday college football playoff games, 4 games each day.
Yeah.
And then the next weekend you have 4 games on that Saturday. And then the next weekend you have 2 games on that Saturday. And then you wait a couple of weeks, or maybe you could do the first 2 rounds and then skip a week and then play the final 4 and then skip a week and then play the national championship. And I think it would work great. It would be beautiful. But
I just wish the national championship was on a Monday night. I just can it be like a Friday? Wouldn't it be great if it was like a Saturday night or a Friday night?
I don't understand why it's not a Saturday night. Like, to me, it makes more sense for a college football thing to be highlighted on a Saturday night.
I was half falling asleep. We were up 50-7 on TCU on a Monday.
Bro, I turned the game off. I was like, I got shit to do.
Yeah,
I got other more important things to do than to watch this bullshit.
Back to back. Okay, going to bed. Good night, everybody.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly right.
On to the West.
All right, so I gotta ask you about that though. So like, I gotta talk my shit, right? Because the reigning college baseball national champions and women's college basketball national champions, right here. All right, so but the baseball team, so like a great like advancing to the finals walk-off home run against Wake Forest. That was epic. So exciting. I loved it. It was great. Like, it was intense, like the adrenaline, like you're just like bursting at the seams with stress, and then you walk it off. Great. Game 1 of the World Series championship is another, not a walk-off, but a dramatic late inning home run that puts you in position to close it out. Then you go into the second game and we get blown out like 20-6 or 20-4 or whatever the hell it was. And then the next day you just turn around and blow them out.
Yeah.
And it's just like, all right. So I kind of feel you. Like, in a way, it was like, all right, this is cool. But at no point was I like, yeah, we won the national championship.
Yeah.
It was just like the whole game, you're just like slowly coming to the realization that, oh, we're winning the national championship right now.
Yeah.
And you have to sit through it for 4 innings of being up by 12 runs. And it's just like very anticlimactic. So how was that last year with Georgia? Well, I know it's not as satisfying as the year before, where it was an epic beating Alabama, and the way that the game you almost lost it and everything. And it's like exhilarating. And this one was just kind of like, all right, that was fun. I'm going to bed.
As being a team who has been in 3, I would say 3 of the college football playoff era.
Oh yeah,
we have been in, I would say 3 of the best played games. Now 4. of the best played games. Us in Oklahoma, us in Bama, and then us in Ohio State.
You said you and Oklahoma went was that Baker Mayfield or Kyler Murray?
That was Baker Mayfield at the Rose Bowl when we went to OT and with Jake Fromm as a freshman.
Okay.
So that game, we went to like 4 overtimes, and Sony walked it off on a Wildcat to the left.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah.
When we were at the Rose Bowl, it was like, we score, then they score. We're like, oh, we got a game. This is the team that just went balls to the wall at Michigan last week. Like, this is Max Duggan, who we both talked about, can will individually his team to to be in the game. You know what I mean? With grit, spit, grind, whatever you want to say, to get the team going.
Yeah, so you kind of felt it for a minute
for like
at the beginning of the game.
The first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Because it was like, oh, we picked him off. Let's go.
Yeah,
we were up 21-7 really fast. And then, it's like, oh, now it's 30. Oh, now it's 40. Oh, it's okay. It's the third quarter. All right. It's time I got to go to work tomorrow, but it's the national championship.
Right.
My team's in it. I can't just call it early. It's like, our backups are in now. And the national Stetson's go, oh, goodbye, Stetson. It was nice to know you. Stetson's, it kind of coming off of the craziness that was Ohio State on New Year's Eve, to that, it was just like, yeah, okay. Like, I don't hate it. Like my blood pressure appreciated it.
Yeah.
Me being able to get a good night's sleep after was, kind of lulled me into like okay, it's time to go to bed. I don't know. Like, I personally, I love being able to get up. Like, me and my parents, my brother, we go, like, I live on my own now. They have their house and they have like a Georgia dedicated, bar in the basement with like
the man
cave. My mom has a speaker going, and every touchdown she plays, the Georgia fight song. And we have an LED bulldog. My brother had made.
Oh, wow. Great. Yeah, they did it up.
So, wow. It deep in Penn State territory, we have that.
Right.
But it's like, we get up every touchdown, scream, holler, when Keely Ringo picked it off in the national championship, I almost like
broke something.
I think it's the closest I've come to like actual tears in a sports moment. Like closest. I never have, but it was that close to like, we just did it. But I'm also like, but now it's like we've set all these expectations for ourselves.
Jeremiah said y'all need a better fight song.
It's actually a really easy fight song. You just say the couple words over and over and over and over again, and then
I know.
Over.
Yeah.
So don't worry about that. But yeah. So I don't. It's bitter. Like, we won the national championship. I can't be upset.
Right.
But,
right.
I kind of wish it would have been Michigan.
Yeah.
We had to play for it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, TCU earned it. You can't say they didn't.
Yeah.
We both have said many times is that TCU did deserve to be in the playoff. And they beat Michigan. You can't argue with that. And oh well. And Max Duggan, I don't think it's on NFL roster anymore, so that sucks.
Yeah. But anyway, but I know what you mean, because I had that same feeling where it's like,
when y'all
when you go back and you watch, so like when LSU walked off Wake Forest in the World Series, that Tommy White home run off of their elite closer, he hangs a slider and White just destroys it. And it's like, oh my gosh, we just won. We just won this game, and we're going to the championship. Let's go. I mean, I rewatched that thing probably 5 times in the next 2 days. When we won the national championship, I just went back to work. Yeah. And I was like, I'm not watching that shit. Like, what am I going to do? Like, it's not exciting to watch us just bludgeon them to death like the whole time.
I've watched that Keely Ringo interception more times than I care to admit, but I don't think I've actually rewatched any part of
the championship last year. Yeah.
It's just kind of like is what it is. Like, okay,
right.
We're moving on. Looking forward to next season. Goodbye, everybody. Have fun in the NFL.
Right. Like, all right. So let's get back. Right. Let's get to the West here. So we got Alabama, as always, taking on a very tough out of conference schedule with now I will give them credit. They actually scheduled Texas in a home and home the last couple of years. So
And we always have given Saban shit for not ever.
Kudos to Alabama for actually like putting something on the line.
I just want to say we have opened up against Oregon and Clemson and plenty of other teams.
Too.
I'm just saying,
bro. Like the 2011, and this is one of the things that makes me salty about that 2011 national championship. First of all, Alabama was the runner-up in the SEC West.
Oh, we've had this conversation.
Second of all, I don't think anybody's ever played a schedule can compare to the schedule that LSU played that year. Oregon, who had been in the national championship against Auburn the year
Anthony Thomas, Oregon,
with Anthony Thomas and who was the quarterback?
It wasn't Marcus Mariota yet.
No, it was.
I know you're talking about, but it was the good Oregon
team. 6'6" black dude. I can't remember his name.
Kelly, Oregon.
Yes, Chip Kelly, Oregon. They had DeAnthony Thomas. They had some other folks. Anyway, that was a good Oregon team. Ended up like top 5 in the country before it was all said and done. Well, beat them. Went to Morgantown and beat Geno Smith and Tavon Austin and that West Virginia team.
Greatest highlight tape of all time.
Beat Florida and Tennessee when Florida and Tennessee weren't great, but they were solid. Beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa. There were several games where like the teams LSU was beating were like top 15 teams.
Yeah.
Arkansas, people forget this, but Arkansas in the final game of the season, Arkansas was number 3 in the country.
Was that a Darren
and had one loss? No, they're going back too far. They had one loss, and their one loss was to Alabama in like October or September or something like that. And that game, if Arkansas beats us, it's a 3-way tie for first in the West. And LSU just curb stomped them. It was like 41-17 or something.
And y'all went to the SEC championship and
then we go to the SEC. Then we blow y'all out.
Tyrann Mathieu
SEC championship
return.
Yes, 42-10 or something. Whatever it was.
That was horrible. We had a tough streak in the SEC championship game for a long time.
So we go to the national championship, and of course they're like, well, you know what? It wouldn't be fair if we didn't let the SEC West runner-up in the national championship.
Oh yeah, you told us.
Screw Oklahoma State. That was Oklahoma State. That was Brandon Whedon and Justin Blackman. Yeah, Oklahoma State.
A good team.
Like a really good. I mean, we would have killed them because they could. I don't think they could have stopped.
But what you said, more deserving though, like you said.
But they were more deserving. They earned it. They won a tough conference, and Alabama didn't even win their division.
Yeah,
we get the hell out of here. Anyway, I digress. But Alabama did actually, yes, and they traveled last year. They went to Texas last year. This year they're playing in Tuscaloosa. Yeah. So it's Middle Tennessee State, then Texas in Tuscaloosa, at South Florida. I don't know why. Yeah, maybe that's the one he's talking about. They're traveling for a conference game. Yeah, they're playing at South Florida, but they should destroy South Florida.
Ole Miss ticket sale record for South Florida.
Ole Miss, Mississippi State. Right, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Texas A&M on the road. That'll be interesting. That's early October. That's usually the game where like they lose that one, and then they're actually playing their best football by the time they get to us.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thoughts? I mean, you look 2 ahead. Tennessee going to Alabama. Thoughts?
Mm-hmm. I think the fact that Tennessee beat Alabama last year is really bad for Tennessee this year.
Yes,
and I think similarly for us this year, I think it's going to be.
Do you know how terrified I was of Alabama after we beat them in the national championship in 21? I was petrified. I was like, well, we just teed them up for a revenge tour. Like,
right.
I was terrified. Like, you don't.
And that's why I'm like, I don't know about Alabama. I don't know about Saban. Quarterback is a question mark, and like all of those things are just like, is Saban slipping? And do they have the quarterback play? Because that's one thing that has always bailed him out.
He's a great quarterback.
That they have, they play great defense, and they've always got great receivers, great running backs, great O-line
all over the field.
But when he's got like that Tom Brady of college football, kind of got AJ McCarron. Say what you want to say about these guys, but yeah, Greg McElroy, AJ McCarron, Tua. even Justin Field. I mean, not just what's the saying? Jalen
Blake
Hurts.
Sims? Oh,
No, Jalen Hurts. Well, Blake Sims was okay, but he
yeah.
wasn't great. But no, they've always had ever since he got rid of Sarah Jessica Parker. That's what we used to call him, John Parker Wilson. We used to call him Sarah Jessica Parker. But anyway, ever since they moved on from that era, Saban has had like good quality quarterback play. And you go to Mac Jones, probably the best one.
Yeah.
In terms of like managing a team and
Yeah.
like getting the most out of
They also
an
don't
entire
have
roster.
the like the Najee Harris, Derrick Henry, Eddie Lacy type running back at least that I'm aware
Well,
of.
even Jahmyr Gibbs last year was like a beast.
Yeah.
If you let him get loose, but
But you know what I'm talking about, like that guy, like even
yeah,
Bo
right.
Scarborough, like
The
built
guy
like a
who,
Mack
the
truck.
guy who you cannot bring down,
Yeah,
and they just grind you away in the fourth quarter,
Yeah.
and you can't get them off.
Like,
the
you
field.
want the ball back in the fourth quarter? Well, too damn bad.
Too bad. We're gonna go first down 6 yards, second down 4 yards, first down. First down 6 yards, second down. Yeah, I know what you mean.
That for 5 minutes.
Right. We're gonna just do that for the several extended drives. Yeah. So we'll see. Tennessee, that's gonna be interesting.
10.5 for Alabama.
10.5 for Alabama. All right. So
plus 148 for the over.
Losable games: Texas A&M at College Station, Tennessee at
LSU.
home, LSU, and then you always have to put the Auburn game as like an asterisk type game. And I think Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss, September 23rd. That's really early. Again, this is a pattern. If you've been watching SEC football long enough, you know there's a pattern that it's always frustrated me as an LSU fan because Alabama's always figured all this shit out and fixed the things that are wrong by November. They've got a bye week. They've got 2 weeks to prepare for us, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Ole Miss in September. And what was the other one? Texas A&M in early October. Yeah. Well, no, that's when they typically play them. But they'll like switch.
Yeah.
They'll play Arkansas, Texas A&M, Ole Miss. They'll play a couple of them in like September, October, and then the other one will be like in November. But usually, if they're going to slip up, it's going to be one of those early games. It's going to be
Ole Miss has done it before too.
So I was going to say it's Ole Miss. It's been Ole Miss. It's been Texas A&M in years past, and I think maybe they blew one to Arkansas and maybe to Mississippi State, but those are more rare. That's possible. And Lane Kiffin, if he's got his stuff, hitting on all cylinders early like he typically does before the team starts to like give up on him and fall apart. Yeah.
And the defense doesn't show up games anymore.
Yeah, right. That's a possible loss. So I would say 9.5, you said, is the number?
10.5.
Oh, 10.5. Ooh, so they got to go 11-1
for the over.
They got to go 11-1. It's plus 148 for the over.
I mean, I don't think they beat LSU, and it's Alabama.
I just hesitate to say that they're not going to beat us because
well, I could say it, but Alabama, like you said, you can say whatever you want about Georgia. I can say you and I both are the same way about our own teams. Like I can praise LSU, you can praise Georgia, but I'm not going to praise my own team. Yeah, Alabama. I mean, you never know. Like you said, KJ Jefferson at Arkansas, which I think is the next one on the list if it's not Auburn. If you pull the schedule up.
Yep. Yeah, it's Arkansas, then Tennessee. Auburn's the last game. The Iron Bowl is always going to be the last one on their regular season schedule.
What's Arkansas schedule? They play BYU. That is just comes out at you.
So I would tend to go under for Alabama on that 10.5.
It's not bad.
I could see them going 10-2.
Minus 184. Yeah, that's a no-go. They know what they're doing.
Yep.
Like they're trying to bait everybody into taking the plus money BS.
Right. So Arkansas, Western Carolina, Kent State, BYU is not a bad one. That's a tough one.
Listen, Kent State,
Florida International. Yeah, I would think Arkansas is probably 6.5, 7.5.
For their over-under. They have to go 2 Ole Miss.
I would go
back-to-back weeks.
I don't care. I would go over for that 6.5 if I'm betting it.
Yeah. Auburn.
All right, so Auburn, UMass, Cal. Is that Samford? Yeah.
Samford, not Stanford.
Not Stanford, Samford. Yeah, and New Mexico State. So that's 4. You could go 3-1. even with that Auburn roster, with that group of 4 games. And then I would say they could probably pick up 2 or 3 in the SEC, maybe 4 in the SEC. So
They're gonna beat
7.
Vandy, Mississippi State.
I would think their over under is probably 6.5. Also, maybe
It is,
7.5.
yeah.
6
6.5.
is it 6.5? Yeah. I would be tempted to go over there, but I think I would like to actually, with a couple of those, I'd like to kind of see things start to develop and then like take a look at it again.
Yeah.
And then buy it after I've gotten to see a little bit. You know what I mean? Get it. Let me see a flop first.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Let me see a flop.
Yeah.
So it might be one of those ones where you like, if I was going to bet it, I would like place a bet and then like maybe double down if it's going away I like, or something like that. Or cash it out if it's not going the way that I think it should go.
Yeah.
So that you can mitigate your losses. Mississippi State, Southeastern, Arizona, Western Michigan.
Who are we looking at? Oh, Mississippi State. Sorry.
Mississippi State, yeah. Southeastern, Arizona, Western Michigan, Southern Miss.
I mean, I'd give them Southeast Louisiana. Do you think? I mean, Arizona's not. Do you think they'll beat Arizona?
I think that's a toss up. I think I'd
Michigan.
go Western Michigan. They should be able to handle them, and Southern Miss too.
Miss.
Yeah, so I would go. I go 3-1 in those. I think they're kind of in that same Auburn territory with maybe a little bit of an easier schedule.
Yeah.
No, it's about the same. They don't have you guys though.
They do not.
You know so they both have Alabama, but they don't have to play Georgia like Auburn does. So yeah, I would say that they should be about 6.5 or 7.5 also, and I would go over on the
plus 138 for the over on that.
Yeah, I would take that.
Yeah.
Mercer, Ole Miss has Mercer, Tulane, Georgia Tech.
Oh my God! So that's 1,
and UL Monroe.
That's 3.
Well, Tulane's good.
Oh, that's right. They did.
And they're playing that one in New Orleans.
So Georgia Tech's a win. Vandy's a win. Louisiana
UL Monroe, yeah, that's a win.
I would take them beating Mississippi State too.
And then so take like Arkansas, Auburn, Texas A&M, and Mississippi State. I would say they should win. They should split those and possibly even win 3 out of 4.
Yeah, 7.5 is the number.
What is it?
7.5.
Oh, 7.5. Golly,
Yeah.
see, I feel weird taking all these overs on these because I'm like, man, somebody's gonna fail.
It's our SEC.
Somebody's got to be bad.
It's inevitable.
Somebody's got to be bad to make these other ones be good, right?
3 and 9.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, like, you can't have, Ole Miss can't beat Mississippi State and Mississippi State also beat Ole Miss. You know what I mean? So something's got to give. I just don't know what it's going to be. That's why like a lot of these I would just stay away because I don't see anything that says like, oh, that's so juicy.
Texas A&M is a massive stay away. I don't care what it is.
No, I don't know what to expect with Jimbo Fisher with that. So here's the thing that, all right, so let's go through the schedule real quick and then I'll give my take on Jimbo Fisher. New Mexico, Miami, that's going to be a tough one at Miami in Coral Gables. You got UL Monroe also, Abilene Christian. So you should win 3. You should go 3-1 in those games. But this is a team that lost to Appalachian State last year early in the season.
This is true. So, but App State was actually like a good team last year.
They have to go to Fayetteville. They play Alabama at home. They've got to go to Knoxville. They've got South Carolina. They have to go to Oxford. They have to come to Baton Rouge. This is a tough schedule.
They have a tough road schedule.
I would say, what is their over under? 6.5, 7.5, 8.5?
8.
8 even?
8.5.
8.5?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going under on that one.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
The books agree.
Minus 180 to go under.
Yeah, to go under.
8.5 is crazy for that schedule.
Look
at those road games. Look at those road games.
Yeah.
at LSU, at Ole Miss, at Tennessee, at Arkansas, at Miami.
Yeah, that's not easy.
What? If you just lose your 5 road games, that's assuming you beat Alabama at home, beat Mississippi State at home, beat Auburn at home. Like that's assuming all that stuff. Beat South Carolina at home too. And did I already say Mississippi State? Like if you beat all those win all your home games and just lose your road games, you're 7-5. So you failed.
You failed.
If you win 4 or 1 out of those 5 road games and win all the other ones, you still failed because you're 8-4. So like this is crazy. But so here's my take on Jimbo Fisher. I think that he's an asshole, first of all. Like he's a douchebag and a dirtbag. Very much like Lane Kiffin. Like very hard to get along with. Like he rubs people the wrong way. He's always had so look at what he has left in his wake. Okay. Florida State, if he doesn't have Jameis Winston and Kelvin Benjamin, we're not talking about that national championship, No. So look at what he left behind when he left that program. It was in a shambles. And they've had to resurrect it. And then look at when he left. Now he was Nick Saban's coordinator at in Baton Rouge when LSU won the 2003 national championship. Great as a coordinator, great offensive mind, but he's assumed all this control where he's the offensive coordinator de facto, plus he's the recruiter, plus he's the head coach and the CEO. Yeah, he's the play caller. He's trying to do all this stuff, and
he's trying to be Urban Meyer.
I just don't know. Yeah, but look at how that turned out too.
Yeah,
like I don't know how long. At what point is Urban Meyer? Is Jimbo Fisher going to have worn out his welcome in College Station?
I mean,
we already saw that whole freshman class that was the greatest recruiting class ever, or whatever. Half the damn class left.
I mean, everybody knows everybody knows the buyout, and Texas A&M probably has the money if they really wanted to do that.
I think the only thing that's saving him is the fact that there's nobody who they can be like, yeah, that's our guy, to go replace him, to make it worth, initiating that buyout.
I don't know. I feel like there's there's some coaches that that could, I don't know. I just feel like we both hate Jimbo Fisher, so there is nothing that I can say that is gonna, add to the conversation.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But do you want to break down the games for this weekend and get on out of here?
Yeah, let's do that.
Tonight, the biggest
go ahead.
We got Florida going to Utah. Like I said, first out of state, out of conference game for Florida since the 90s. Since they went up to the Carrier Dome to play Syracuse. Utah without Cam Rising, without Kincaid, still with a good defense, I would say overall.
Right.
Utah's -4.5. I've been debating every which way, but this is a Florida team that lacks an identity as of right now.
Right.
Massively, without Anthony Richardson, without much substance. Like I said, we're just shaking off the cobwebs, but nobody's been saying, "Oh, Florida's got this. They're going to be great this year."
Right.
You know what I mean?
So it's Florida. They've got talent. They do. It's hard to not have talent.
I feel like Utah has more established talent.
Yeah.
And
they're playing in Salt Lake City. So yeah.
Utah won't see the swamp. I want to take Utah -4.5.
Okay.
But I wish the number was smaller.
Right.
I would love it at a 3 and a 2.5, 3. What are your thoughts?
There's nothing else really going on today. The Nebraska Minnesota Matt Rule era, starting.
I like Nebraska to cover.
Yeah, I do too, just because playing for a new coach and a guy who's got a reputation. I don't expect for the quality to be a big drop off. Another one that's interesting though is NC State UConn. UConn was kind of a little sneaky good team last year, and there's a lot to I don't know, I guess let flesh out with like both of those programs. Like, how is NC State going to bounce back after they had the big was it Nick Leary got like tore his pec or something like that in the like halfway through the season. They weren't really the same after that. Like, how does NC State bounce back after a rough year last year?
Yeah.
And then how does because they had that big win
they could
at
have
the
been
end of the
decent,
year.
they
They had a big win at the end of the year last year that kind of like
Yeah.
saved the season a little bit. But
Yeah.
and then UConn still going to be sneaky good. NC State's favored by 2 touchdowns. Well, 14.5 in that one. I would tend to go UConn because they're playing that one in Connecticut. I would tend to go.
Stink. Am I missing something?
UConn was okay last year. That's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, you look at their. I can't. I don't have this. I don't have a way of pulling up the schedule from last year.
You're good.
But they were one of those. They were like 500 roughly last year.
Yeah.
And they were one of those ones that like they would sneakily like beat the number. So 14.5 is a lot to give up on the road in a season opener. So I would tend to lean that way, but I don't know. I'm really like I'm kind of trying to lay off of being a degenerate gambler. So
until Saturday.
I'm not like period. Like just in general. Yeah. It's
we can look at Saturday. I mean, what are your thoughts on we haven't touched on it yet because he's not
you have the Miami game. Have Miami and Miami ever played each other?
I don't know, but that's funny, right?
Yeah,
Miami. Yeah. Colorado TCU Saturday.
Yeah, that's the Deion Sanders debut bowl.
Yeah, it's 20.5 spread.
Yeah.
63.5 total. I might take the over just because of
the Virginia-Tennessee game Saturday morning is interesting too. Those 2 games, that's actually worth. I might just have that set up. ABC and Fox just have like 2 different TVs, and I'll just have that kind of going on in the background while I'm prepping food or whatever.
Here's my sneaky backdoor cover of the weekend. You ready for this?
All right, let's go.
Utah State plus 23.5 against Iowa.
I was looking at that Utah State line. I was like, Iowa doesn't score enough. Iowa might not score. Iowa might not score 24 points.
Yeah, exactly.
So how are they going to win by 23.5 or more if they can't score that many?
21-7.
Yeah, no,
you know what I mean?
That's right. And it'll still be a blowout.
Yeah.
It'll be like 21-0. It'll be 21-0. And the backdoor cover it'll be 21-0. Iowa will get in field goal range and they'll kneel it out. That's the backdoor cover. They'll kneel it out and the game will end with no more points being scored. I would actually look at the under in that game. How's the over under 43?
I don't know.
So they're saying what they're saying here by this is they expect this to be a 34-10 game.
I'm hammering the under.
I don't see that, man. And also like Utah State scored some points last year. Utah State can hang points. They only scored 10 against Memphis. They scored 23 against Boise State. That was the game, if you remember, I had bet for them to cover, and it was like multiple different spreads. They were in the red zone inside the 10-yard line. If they score a touchdown, they take the lead. There's like a minute and a half left in the game. They throw a pick, and the next play or the play after, when Boise State's just trying to run the clock out, the quarterback just takes it around the end and goes 90-something yards for a touchdown. So now I lose that cover. Then Utah State is just like, I don't care. We're still going to try to come back. Pick 6. It was like one of the worst bad beat.
Yeah.
Where was Scott Van Pelt and Stanford Steve like to give the big bad beat breakdown for me in that one? That was brutal. They scored I want to say they scored 3 touchdowns in the last minute and a half.
Yeah.
Or they scored 2 touchdowns. That's what it was. They were up by 5 and they ended up scoring 2 touchdowns to make it a 19-point game. Shout
out to Jeremiah opening up against Indiana conference game, 29.5 point favorites.
That's what Drew Sample was also telling me about that, like that they did their show on that. I want to get Drew and Jeremiah. I want to bring them both on here at some point during the season so we can talk trash to them. Ohio State at Indiana. You should win that game. You should win that game going away, as the spread suggests. Boise State, Washington. That's been one that over the years has been kind of an interesting matchup. But Washington's got a lot of talent. That's a really good team. I don't know if they're top 10 worthy by the time the season's over with, but I don't think Boise State's going to have enough. That's another Saturday afternoon game. We already talked about Rice and Texas.
Penn State, West Virginia is 20.5, by the way.
Oh, okay. I would tend to go West Virginia covering that.
And South Carolina.
No offense, Penn State folks. South Carolina, North Carolina. What'd you say? Oh yeah, South Carolina, North Carolina. Yeah.
Over under 64.5.
New Mexico, Texas A&M. That one's really intriguing to me because like I might just like throw a nickel on New Mexico money line if it's even available. At 38.5, it's not available. It's probably locked. But what I could do is I could tease it. I could tease it though. I could tease it to, instead of 38.5 or whatever, I could be like, all right, what about if they just keep it within like 2 touchdowns?
Yeah.
Maybe that's plus 1,400 or something, you know?
And then what is the line on? I want to look for you. Your line.
Oh, 2.5.
LSU. Yeah, I'm taking LSU money line is only minus 134. And then Clemson. We have Monday Night Football too. Clemson versus Duke. Clemson by 1 million.
Yeah, it's only 13. They're only favored.
Well, I'm just saying it's 12.5, but it's Clemson.
Oh, you're saying that they're going to win by 1 million? Yeah, probably so.
Clemson,
Coastal Carolina, UCLA is interesting because UCLA lost a lot. They lost Dorian Finney-Smith and not Dorian Finney-Smith. See all these people. It's DTR.
The dude, the Browns backup,
the quarterback. Yeah, the quarterback that
I don't know his name. I just know him as DTR. Funny enough.
Yeah, DTR. Yeah. Not I said Dorian Finney-Smith. I got basketball on the brain, but no. So DTR something Robinson. I know Robinson is the R. I can't remember. Anyway, and then Landry Shamet. Not Landry Shamet. What's that guy's name? Zach Charbonnet. See, I'm mixing.
You're going to get there eventually. It's okay.
Yeah, Zach Charbonnet also gone from UCLA. So like Coastal Carolina, that was a talented team. I don't know if they had that quarterback that they had last year who got hurt late in the year, if he's still around, but that would be an interesting to look at because UCLA is favored by 14.5. And I think Coastal Carolina, if they're anything like what they were last year, could keep that one closer. But this is just kind of it's really an ugly weekend. You have like 3 decent matchups this weekend.
It's week 1, and then it is what it is. I'm not too worried about it. They don't even have the Georgia UT Martin. There's no lines for it.
Why would there be? What the hell? Like
60.5.
Run them.
65.5.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, football's back. It's in the air. I can feel it.
I can smell the grass clippings when I walk outside. That's how great it is. Instead of just smelling sweltering heat. So.
Yeah, in PA, I feel like I'm walking around on a college campus. It just has that feel, You see, like like your friend, like people that going back to like fall camp, things like that, getting ready to tune up for for football and whatnot. I'm excited, but yeah, dude, Jeremiah, go Dogs. Sorry about it.
Go Tigers.
That's it. You know Tigers. 2022 is in the past. 2023 college football season, it's already underway. I'm excited. I know you're excited.
Yep, and we will catch you guys again next week with some results and some previews of hopefully some even more intense games. I know LSU is going to take a little bit of a step backward from this really big game with Florida State this weekend, playing Grambling next week. But know that we will be well underway, and we'll have a whole lot of stuff to talk about, breaking down the games and previewing what's coming up. And we appreciate everybody joining us. And this is the South End Zone. I am Chad. He is Tyler. We are out of here. Peace, y'all.